means I suspect that they're not training. But there's 32 names, and there's going to be a squad of 24 come the Ashes, and there's probably about 8 or 9 to add in who are playing in the NRL. So it probably really isn't worth getting too excited one way or the other, because we're not having any internationals, we're not having any contact training sessions. So some names have been picked, and most of them are on form. There are 1 or 2 who aren't in there who are on form. But does it matter, ultimately?
Thanks, Tim. I forgot to start the streaming, so even though we did the bonus podcast at the start, there's even more bonus content because I forgot to press the streaming button. But we're here now, so it's all right. You missed the music.
What did they miss?
Steve McNamara's been sacked.
Did they miss the breaking news?
Yeah, they missed that. So apart from that...
And did they miss... They used to weigh on you at half time? Go back.
Just you have to. When I upload it to Facebook later, you'll find out. Yeah, so the England squad's out, and anyone who was surprised that Jake Connor isn't in it shouldn't be, because Brad Arthur pretty much said so on Friday, when he didn't say he's not in the squad, but he said there's some players in the squad, because obviously they know. Look, I'd choose chaos. I'd have Jake Connor and Mikey Lewis at half, because you don't know what they're going to do together. It could be absolute bedlam. We could lose 70-0. But we're going to go... We've said on this programme for months, Sean Wayne is going to pick, if they've got 2 legs and can run, George Williams and Harry Smith. And everyone knows that.
Yes.
And they know that, and the Aussies know that, and we all know what they're going to do, and they know what they're going to do.
And
so there's no point moaning about it.
You might have one maverick on the bench who can change things, and at the moment that would probably be Mikey. So it's not a huge surprise.
Is it right? No. But well, it doesn't matter.
Well,
it's right for Sean Wayne.
If you say you're going to pick players on form, it's hard to ignore the player that's at the top of the current Man of Steel rankings. But if he doesn't fit into your style of play, you're not going to pick him.
Tim's picking on Emily Rudge. Can't pick on Emily Rudge.
No, she's got T-shirts and everything. Talking of Sean Wayne,
yes,
Brad Fittler turned down the Kangaroos job.
Oh. Well, Sean Wayne's going to coach the Australians?
No, so he doesn't know who he's going to be up against.
Well,
could be a combination of Cameron Smith and Billy Walters, apparently.
Billy Walters?
Not Billy Walters, that's his son. No, Steve Walters, his brother.
Billy Slater?
No, Kevin Walters.
Kevin Walters.
The Walters bit was right.
Former Catalan coach.
Who very nearly got them relegated. And Brisbane Broncos coach who took them to a grand final with Lee Breers and then got sacked the year after. So I think we'd want him and Cameron Smith together. Yeah.
They've got some good players, though, the Australians.
Some good players. Yeah. The one thing that a squad of 32 with some names omitted who people would have in there, we've got a squad of players, haven't we? We've had squads picked in the not too distant past where we've said, well, 1 to 13 picks themselves. It's good. We have some competition for that. I'm glad Harry Robertson's in.
It's good for all these the players who, as you say, it's a 32-man squad, and the squad for the Ashes is going to be 24, 25.
I think it'll be 24.
So we know, and this doesn't include players from the NRL. So there are players in this squad who are going to get some free T-shirts tomorrow and never play for England. So,
Stash.
You know, good luck to them on that. They stick it on eBay and make some money.
Yep.
So, well done to them. And Junior Sember's not his real name, I understand.
No, apparently not.
So that's even more exciting. But I don't know how you pronounce his version of Richard. So, no. with an apostrophe. Now I might adopt that.
Is it H apostrophe?
I think it's after the I. So I might have to. Next time we see Junior and Sember, we'll ask him.
Well, it's hardly Little Richard, is it?
No, because I can steal that, and then I don't know what I'll do with it, but I'll do something with it. So there's nothing to talk about with the England squad. To the shock of everyone who listens to this programme and reads Forty20 magazine out now, the head of Rugby League Commercial left, which we knew was going to happen, and I don't know why that was such a big news story, because we knew Frank Slevin was leaving.
He'd already said, I will not be renewing my term of office after 3 years for personal reasons.
So he went one day.
I don't know where the Etihad is. That was his personal reason.
And then the next day, lo and behold, there's a new head of Rugby League Commercial. And it's Nigel Wood OBE off of Nigel Wood.
Which again...
And everyone's surprised, like, wow.
Led to some people saying this is a carve-up. But again... not making any defence of anything. If you want significant change, you need to bring as many organisations under one umbrella to be able to change them. So I think we need to wait until the strategic review announces whether there even is going to be a rugby league commercial, and then see what happens off the back of that. But yeah, bring it all under one umbrella if that's what the game is demanding, and at least be united in whatever the approach is. Which is not to say whether he is or isn't the right man for the job, whether it does look like megalomania or whatever. It's not a surprise, is what we're saying.
No, I don't know why anyone would be surprised. Well done to whoever had to man or woman the RFL's official accounts on social media on Thursday, whatever it was. Well done to them for having to deal with the fallout,
the inevitable flack,
which everyone knew was going to happen. But I do wonder: are we actually going to get a 14-team Super League, or are they floating this idea and then they're going to come in with something that's not quite as bad, and we all go, "Oh, it's not as bad." Oh, we thought nuclear war was coming, but actually it's chemical weapons instead.
Mergers. Oh, we're moving to the summer.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's better than a merger. Standard business practice. Offer the unpalatable, pull back a little bit, and get what you really want.
Because we've got this strategic review ongoing, which we don't know the terms of reference for. And
But apparently there is terms of reference. We just don't know what they are.
I think they speak to the media or something. They've got their own. They've certainly got their own channels of influence. But you think with this whole game review, they'd have a look at, say, Women's Super League, which is a competition under their control, and see how they expanded it far too quickly without the talent base, and look what happened.
It'd be interesting to talk to somebody like Kelsey Gentles about that.
Yeah. Oh, we should have done.
She'd have an opinion.
She was just too busy.
Well, if she turned up in time, we wouldn't have.
If you missed Kelsey Gentles yesterday,
It's a good 20 minutes.
yeah, 16.
Is it?
16, yeah.
Oh, did you have to cut out some at the beginning?
The video of Leeds in Edinburgh is longer, but it's well worth watching and listening to.
Is it out?
Not yet, no. It's nearly finished. But yeah, go listen to Kelsey Gentles because she's interesting. So that was the RFL bit. Because there's not... We could sit here for a whole hour saying, "Oh, this is terrible," but you already know it's terrible, and you already know what's going to happen. And
judge it when you know what's happening.
Just go, we'll see what happens, and hopefully it's not as bad as we hope. And if they do go to 14 teams, they go to 14. But as we see with then we expect there's going to be a giant championship / League One hybrid thing. But as we see with, and it's a brilliant test case that they're in there, Hunslet team promoted surprisingly.
Yes,
because it was a surprise, wasn't it? In the end?
It was a surprise to them.
So they've been
very late on, bearing in mind that most of the recruitment had been done.
Club with not much money. That's just how it is. Been hammered the last couple of weeks at home. Now, if we have this giant competition, now Hunslet, one of the better teams in League One last season. So some of the not so good teams in League One this year. Let's pick on Newcastle, because we're not picking on Newcastle because we know where they are and why they are where they are. So when Newcastle play whoever's at the top end of the championship next year, which we know won't be Toulouse or Bradford,
Possibly.
yeah, it should be York or Barrow Witness, yeah, because they all won this week. So when they play York or Barrow Witness and they win 150 0, we how did that happen? So yeah, so we'll see what happens, but they're going to make their minds up soon, because we can't say.
It's going to be very hard to change what was due to be happening in 2026, because we're already planning towards an 8s at the end of the season. What is the distribution of money's going to be? How is a club going to budget if they're going to be playing X fixtures or Y fixtures, or a combination of both? I was at the Sheffield Eagles fans forum late last week, and the owner was saying that income at the moment, because they don't have a stadium that they can call their own, is about £300,000. Expenditure is about 1.3 million.
That's quite a difference.
But they don't know how. So he is the benefactor that's making sure that they can continue. But how can he plan for his business next year, and what he may need to funds he may need to top up the club, if he doesn't know who they're going to be playing, or how many teams is going to be in the league, or are they going to be involved in the 8s this year, and will there be a measure of relegation about it, or will that all be thrown out? We'll have the 8s anyway, but it doesn't matter because we've got a different format next year. It's really, really hard for any club to plan. Whatever the strategic review thinks is right, we have to stick by it. We cannot change it again.
You mean like the
We just
12-year thing
can't.
we've just started after?
I mean, you look at the current league table, and we acknowledge that Salford at this moment are a special case. We don't know how or if that is going to change. Hopefully it will. But it is a 9-team Super League at the moment. So why would you increase it to 14 in 2026, when at the end of 2026 we've got to go and negotiate a new TV deal? And what you're basically saying is there'd be 7 games with a 14-team league, of which maybe 4 of them wouldn't be competitive. So how do you go to a broadcaster and go, we can give you more games, but they're not quite as good? Can we have more money?
How do I become an agent of players in the Queensland Cup? That is the big question.
But again, you're shipping in the lower reaches of the Queensland Cup. So again, how does that improve your competition?
For every Caius Fairtilly, there's 100.
But wouldn't you be better promoting your own talent? I mean, again, some clubs are better than others at bringing through. But what Saints are doing at the moment, what Leeds are doing, what Wigan have always done, the reason perhaps why those 3 clubs are the ones that always win the trophy, it's the common denominator is they get access to the best young talent.
I still don't understand.
And they play it.
And obviously this is my lack of paying any attention. I still can't believe that the player Salford nabbed from Hunslet wasn't some young kid who's, a great talent or whatever. Some jobber from the Queensland Cup. It's like, what are we doing? What are we wasting our time? We've got 2 teams fighting over some bloke no one's ever heard of. What's the point?
Who's 23?
Maybe I'm being disrespectful.
Be good.
Yeah, maybe I'm being disrespectful.
Defensively,
maybe I'm being disrespectful.
He put himself about a bit in a admittedly heavy defeat. But
what's the point?
Is it just bodies on the pitch?
Can they get some people on loan from somewhere again? It's just all pointless nonsense. We're all fighting over, but maybe I was disrespectful to him there. But it's the general point of.
No,
we shouldn't really
the provenance. I mean, he may well be a talented player who Hunslet have spotted and bought over and deserves to play at a higher level.
But Hunslet shouldn't be doing that in the first place anyway. Nor any other club in League. League One shouldn't be full of imports. And we're going to increase the import number so we can get more of these.
And again, with the greatest respect, they picked up a player from a team that is bottom of the Championship. It's not as if they've managed to go to York and pick off one of their great young players. And again, you look at, the kind of players that are coming on loan to Championship teams, and you just think that's blocking a pathway for a young kid coming through because they've got a name. And they're out of favour at the moment, or they're coming back from injury, so we'll draft them in.
Nothing makes any sense.
Would it be better developing your own talent?
Well, you think so. And then you've got the whole Salford mess, which still continues, as we were all surprised last week. I don't know, because some people say one thing, right? They were due to be paid on date A, but their contract says they can be paid up until the last day of the month. So what? So if that's true, then it's like when I'm a freelancer. If I send an invoice out, it says pay within 30 days. Now it doesn't always get paid within 30 days because that's unfortunately how the world works. But then you speak to the person, they say, well, we're going to pay you by this point, or there's been a problem with the system, blah blah blah, and you take it on trust because most people you can trust, and you get paid in the end, and blah blah blah. But if Salford is supposed to do something by one point, why isn't there like a players' union up in arms about this?
Well, yes, the story today, of course, that the RLPA has been defunded, and Gareth Carvell has lost his job. And I'm not sure where the demarcation lies as to who's responsible for that. There seems to be fingers pointing at Rugby League Cares, but I thought they were all funded by mainly the RFL and or the monies that they raise. So is there a bigger issue around the money that they've got and the work that they want to do? I don't think we know the full story. We know that the G&B aren't particularly happy that the post has been rescinded, and you'd think at a time when everything is going on at Salford the stronger the players' union, the more the chance of getting some resolution for the players.
Yeah, surely the people pay into the union and then they do their bidding on their behalf.
Well, you would have thought.
Where's Mr. Wilkin on our wall? Have I covered him up with the Rothman shirt? He's somewhere there, isn't he?
There he is.
There he is with the faded in the
Faded in the sun.
with the League 13 in a very Russian font. That's very it's a bit disrespectful, isn't it? That's a bit. We're doing there. We're like the BBC sticking that Russian hat on Jeremy Corbyn's head. We're insinuating some kind. We're insinuating John Wilkin is a communist. Now we don't know that.
We are stronger together.
Yeah, Wakefield said that, and then we fell apart. But you know, he tried. This is credit to John Wilkin. He tried.
2012.
He tried, and he didn't get any support. So it's not John Wilkin's fault.
I'm going to have to change these, aren't I?
They have been here for how long have we been doing it here for? 8 years, long time. But yeah, so is that part of the news done? I think we've wrapped up everything there in about 10 minutes. Everything's you just can't change anything.
I'm sure there'll be some opinion from our fine
let's go through
viewers and listeners.
Let's go through
who may well be contradictory to our particular point of view.
Dennis, who sent us this flag, he says
I bet he's pleased London won.
He says good weekend for London Broncos, both men and women, because the women won at Salford.
They did.
Kevin says, evening lads, I'm surprised Warrington weren't in for him. This is the lad from
Kobe Ruggles.
I do feel guilty now, but also my point is, it doesn't matter. George Williams is definitely gone at the end of the season, says Kevin, he's off to the Dolphins. Fins up.
Except they've said no.
Oh.
Because they're happy with Cody Nicarima, who was apparently going in the other direction, but isn't.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going at the end of this season, but certainly he's made it clear, I think, even in his interview on Saturday after the game, that he won't be re-signing with Warrington. His contract is to the end of 2026. It
like
will
Sam's?
It'd be interesting to see if they both leave at the end of 2025.
You could take him to whichever NRL team.
Well,
not Perth, because they won't exist by that point. Papua New Guinea, who also won. Or the second team we're going to set up in New Zealand, because we need a second team in New Zealand.
Or a team in Ipswich.
But not one of the new 2 teams that are coming into the NRLW apparently soon, because they've already 2 new teams, now there's to be 2 more. Gav says, drop Salford, add London, Bradford them to lose. I don't know if he's saying that's what we should do or that's what's going to happen.
What about York?
Lunatics Asylum come to... Well, York don't count, because they're not part of the shadowy cabal.
Are they not?
No, because they don't fulfil the criteria of Bradford, being Bradford. They'll have their 20,000 fans are coming back.
Yeah.
They're hidden at the minute. They might be in that big hole in the city that they've filled in. London, because it's London, expansion, Gary.
40 years.
Toulouse, France, expansion. So it ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
That's what people are saying. That's what Gav says.
York
expansion keeps Nigel happy.
York are currently second. Their women's team are the defending champions. They've got a growing wheelchair side. They've got North Yorkshire to move into as an area where there is little rugby league development at the moment. You know, their IMG rating was high with the stadium that they've got. I suspect that you can't rule them out.
Andrew says, I know he wants to talk about video referees. We'll come to that in a minute. Because Tim says, when you get to the Women's Super League, is Emily Rudge A, signing for the Miami Dolphins, or B, signing for WWE? Tim, are you a Wigan fan? You're a Wigan fan, aren't you? You must be a Wigan fan, because you're talking about that try which looked like a forward pass for Lucy McCollum. But you can't tell from the camera angle.
It's hard. It is hard.
And it did look like she went in with the knees on whoever scored the last try, and I can't remember now. But if I click this on the BBC website, it won't tell me. But Tim, do you not follow her on Instagram? She's got a channel, she does videos after the game and tells you stuff.
She's got a whole range of apparel.
Yeah, which apparently it's on the way, so that might be next week's programme.
No,
next week's programme. Apparently they sent it, but he didn't arrive, so I've said... Wigan 22, St Helens 22. It's probably the game of the weekend. Over all the competitions. I've not watched all the games, but it was really good. Some fantastic tries.
It was great. And I have to say as well, hats off to St Helens, because everybody had said, you know, Wigan are marauding through the women's division. Clearly they met at Wembley, 3 weeks ago. It was a one-sided affair. I don't think too many people thought that Saints would go to Wigan and be in the lead for the vast majority of the game.
Nice topsy-turvy game. Wigan on top for the first bit. Didn't score any points. Danny Biggford scored the first try, didn't she? Yeah. Great wingers try down the wing, as they do. Speed, heptathlon.
Knew how to hurdle the last line of defence.
And did really well to get the ball down. which is, I don't think you learn that doing shot put or whatever. So that was really good. Faye Gaskin running the show, a couple of dummies, more dummies than Mothercare and all that kind of thing. Mothercare still exist?
I think so. Past 2.
Vicky Whitfield, poof, straight through, bang. And then
That
Wigan
made
came.
your weekend.
It was a great try. And then Wigan came back, 22-all. I think Wigan missed Emily Vivers off the bench. She's a presence for them.
Well, they also missed a drop goal at the end, which was a, they set up nicely for it, but it just was a poor attempt from
Izzy
Rowe, who again had a very good game.
If that was the grand final in however many months' time, that would upset people who support York and Leeds. So I won't say that.
Why didn't they have Golden Point? We asked that.
We
asked that when it was 20-all between Saints and
But they don't have in the
Leeds.
wheelchair competition either. There's no reason for it not to.
Makes no sense. If it's Super League, surely it should have the same set of rules.
1,200 there, so that's good.
Good. A record for a Wigan women's home game.
Still would say, despite that, why didn't they kick off at 12 like the other two fixtures and have the academy game afterwards? Because
Saints men were playing at the same time.
And you could also watch York and Fev on YouTube as well.
And Saints men were at home as well, so the likelihood is very few people want to go to Wigan and not watch the men's game they may have got a season ticket for.
Warrington 0, York 70. So if I was given the option of signing for Warrington, I wouldn't sign for Warrington. Well, especially not after their chief
being given the option.
No, but what I do know is their chief executive said, "Oh, we probably went too quick." Well, whose fault's that then?
Which basically means we probably didn't support it.
Yeah, it's not my fault.
And probably still aren't.
Well,
it probably is.
Barrow 12, Huddersfield 32. So that sounded like a good game as well. It was on the radio. I missed it though.
And Huddersfield improving.
And then on Friday, because we were there.
We were there.
Leeds 48. Lee 12. Leeds men and women both scored 48 points. How amazing is that? Well, it's not amazing, but there was no Thursday game this week because Lee had been in the south of France playing.
And those very hot temperatures.
You remember because your man was on the telly behind me. Now the interesting thing there is, so Adrian Lamb pointed out in the press conference, we played in Catalans and it's hot, so we're knackered. So now. Who do we tip on Castleford versus Huddersfield? Because there's two rubbish teams. Huddersfield have been in.
Why are Huddersfield playing on a Thursday when Lee didn't have
to? Is Ken Davey not as gobby as the owner of Lee? Is he not got as much power? He's not on the strategic review, is he? I don't know. Did Leeds want it on a Friday because sell more corporate? We don't know.
It just seems.
But it seems odd. Yeah.
The excuse being given, which would be understandable, is that if you're in Catalan on the Saturday, you shouldn't be mandated to play on the Thursday. But Huddersfield are.
This probably is just questions that we don't have answers for. Although I do love the new trend of footage emergence of things. All the games on telly. There's no footage that can emerge of everything. We've seen it. Which we'll come to in a minute because we've got to talk about the Castleford game. Paul says, John Wilkins' attempt was only for Super League players and did not include the Championship players. So of course it was a flop, as you need the whole Rugby League Players Union, which the RLPA was trying to do.
It was a flop anyway, because not even the Super League players joined it.
No free coffees or Nando's. So.
Or bread that he bakes.
I don't know why they don't get behind something. You'd think it'd be especially when we've seen what's happened with Salford over the past few years. I know they kicked up a fuss about, and I know I've said this before, so I'm repeating myself, but they kicked up a fuss about the red cards at the start of 2 seasons ago? Last season? Whenever it was. But they're not kicking up a fuss over people not being paid, which is far more important to your daily life than whether you get sent off.
What you should be representing your members for. Talking of which, Stephen Ball has retired as the Rugby League Benevolent Fund head honcho, and again, some of the work that he's done in the most trying of circumstances is to be lauded.
Have they appointed anyone to?
I don't know whether the plan would be to
fold that into.
I don't know.
Steve McNamara officially left Catalan, says Kevin. Yeah, we talked about that at the start of the programme and I'd forgotten to start it, so apologies for that.
It's on the podcast.
Yeah.
That was a big breaking news.
The start of the podcast is a shambles, but do you want to expect anything less from this programme? If you want professionalism, go to the bench.
Shambles and then they weed on you.
I mean, it wasn't my fault. But, if you want professionalism, go watch. I'm picking up this fence. Professionalism, the bench. Amateur hour, this programme. But still, number one in Sierra Leone. So what can we do?
You can be entertaining and inept at the same time.
But we're just inept. But there was rugby on Thursday because Penrith won and now they're going to win the NRL. So they're
Can't
back.
Believe they're in the top 6.
It's amazing, isn't it? They're back. Nathan Cleary, all the other ones. And it's Origin next week.
Yep.
But they've picked the teams already, so everyone can spend the whole next week saying, ooh. And then people will do something this weekend and they'll say, you can't ban them because it's Origin coming up. And then we'll all go, ooh.
Or maybe the Origin players won't play this weekend.
No.
So they won't get banned.
I think...
No Reece Walsh for Queensland. They haven't brought him back.
He's the one with the hair from Brisbane, isn't he?
Yeah. I like him.
I do know these players. I'm like some of them. I'm just pretending. Last season, people were complaining about player safety after Harry Smith speared Cartwright. Start again. Gav says, last season, people were complaining about player safety after Harry Smith spear tackled a Cass player onto his head, and Aaron Moore reviewed it, saw nothing in it. Glad that's all done with, says Gav. What a fun game Castleford and Wigan. I was at work, so I didn't watch it. It was on in the corner. I saw that Castleford were winning. I had a tweet ready to go. Wigan don't like the WF postcode area. Ha ha ha! And then they won. And I'd left the office, got outside, and they've won. It's like, oh, what's happened there? But apparently, Castleford were playing against not just Wigan, the world champions, lest we forget, who lost to Wakefield, but also all the match officials, all of them, even the ones that weren't there. James as well. James Charlie's not here, but it's probably his fault. He's on a train. He wasn't reviewing that game, was he?
No, he was doing Hull KR and Wakefield.
Oh, which apparently also had stuff going on. But is this as bad as everyone's making it out to be? Or, just to put you on the spot, because I'm not saying.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I saw Castleford were winning. So should they have won that game, or did they lose because of the poor decision, which I've not seen, or
after said incident,
right,
for which the RFL head of referees Phil Bentham has publicly apologised that they got it wrong. After that incident, Castleford took the lead.
Oh,
Castleford were ahead.
All right, this is all interesting information.
Castleford lost the game for two reasons. One was a high tackle by Liam Horn late on in the game that gave Wigan the opportunity to kick a penalty and bring the game level again. And
because I do know this, he's not been cited for a high tackle, has he? Because people seem to think that he has been, but he's been cited for something else.
That had nothing to do with the match officials. That gave Wigan an opportunity in front of the post to make it 18-all, which they did.
Yeah.
Castleford then messed up the kick-off, and Jai Field, who's quite good and has done this to a lot of teams, broke on the outside of Chris Atkin, who had a pretty decent game, but clearly by the 79th minute was a little bit fatigued, couldn't get to Field, as lots of players don't do. Give Field a bit of a gap, turns the ball back on the inside, Wigan win the game. Now, if you want to say that video refereeing decision turned the game, you're not taking account of everything else that went on in that game. Just before half time, again, Castleford seemingly in total control, give away a scrum and concede a try from that scrum. Now, it was, again, nobody's fault. It was a bit of a defensive misread, but if you don't make the mistake in the first place, you don't allow yourself to be put under pressure and go in with the game much closer than it had appeared in the opening 40 minutes. So we wouldn't we, not blame the match officials for the fact that Castleford lost. There were too many things that Castleford did, knocking on from a high kick, that meant that they put themselves under pressure, and in the very last minute Wigan found a way to win. That's one aspect. Castleford fans will disagree with all of that.
Gav says, other way round, Phil, we were winning, Wigan scored off that decision.
Right. I think Castleford had that game in their control, and the penalty that they gave away in front of their own posts cost them the ability to win that game. They played a lot better than even their fans would have credited them for before the game, but they couldn't hold out a very good team that has the ability to win when it looks as though they've been beaten.
Like at Huddersfield 2 weeks ago.
What I find difficult is Danny Maguire's reaction afterwards. And I have nothing but the greatest admiration for Danny as a player and a person, and anybody who's ever heard me talk about him would know that. I understand how frustrated he was, whether that be with his perception of the match officials, whether that be with his own players for allowing the game to slip from their grasp. There's a real issue at the moment in, we talked about it, it's in the magazine, it'll be in the next magazine, community reaction to the respect policy and the fact that it's gone out of the window.
Yeah.
When you hear professional coaches lambasting referees and saying it was better in the old days under Mr. X, Mr. Y or Mr. Z, it undermines all match officials. You're very raw when you go on TV straight afterwards. And you're also a novice head coach who is incredibly frustrated with what's just happened. You have to be more restrained than that. And I'm not sure that the RFL will charge him with bringing the game into disrepute for what he said. Basically, if you read or listen to what he basically said the standard of refereeing was appalling and getting worse. The RFL may charge him with that. If they are to decide that they're going to, that's the time I would have said our video referee made a mistake, because it almost gives him carte blanche and justifies the criticism. And I think the criticism isn't about whether a match official in that game was good, bad or indifferent, or a video referee. I think it's more to do with where are we with respect for match officials at the moment, and it's a major issue, and that didn't help. Luke Robinson saying, even though our team were abjectly beaten in Catalan against a team that couldn't score a point and looked like a rabble themselves up to that game, it was partly, he did say a lot of it was our fault, but he still had to go on and mention we lost the first half penalty count 4-0. I've seen some of the tries they conceded. They may have come on the back of penalties, they may not, but they were soft. And it's a really easy target to hit out at a match official. And I think we've got it wrong. I understand. I can't understand the pressures that these coaches are under. Clearly, we don't understand. But you've got to have humility in defeat.
This will sound like I'm picking on Leeds. I'm not picking on Leeds. But
Pick
Leeds, before every game, they put out a tweet about respect with either a player or someone, and say, respect.
Yeah.
And then the game starts and the South Stand sings Chris Kendall's Onanist. And you can't, so it's like, it's not the worst thing to sing. So what do we do? Because I assume that when Greg McCallum took over, everyone said, it's better in Fred Lindop's day. When Fred Lindop was the top referee, everyone said, it's much better under Sergeant Major Eric Clay.
The problem we've got now is that every single piece of footage is seen and scrutinised. And it never was. If Fred Lindop made a mistake, you might read about it in the paper the following morning. The likelihood is that they just got on with their job and they got mutual respect from the teams, and they weren't ever really picked up on a terrible error, unless it was Darcy Lawler refereeing the Australians and everybody knew he was biased. But it wasn't an issue who the referee was before a game. We have newspapers printing who the referee, whether it's better or worse. We didn't used to know who the referee was until we got to the ground on match day, and you'd either buy a programme or the Tannoy would say, and today's referee is Billy
John
Thompson.
Holdsworth. Boo!
Yeah.
No.
But it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that you are going to criticise the match officials. It's got to be somebody's fault, and it's going to be theirs, and we have to get out of it. We have to, because if you read and listen and hear about what's happening at community level, particularly to young people who are taking up the whistle, we're in danger of driving them away from the sport.
The RFL done anything about the Hulking Our Club video saying Jack Smith cost them a game yet? And Gav points out that there are match officials that are from a place who referee a team from a place. That doesn't need to happen. I mean, we're sure we can.
I think that's...
And I know it's not...
It's naive.
Because
it's stoking the flames.
Yeah.
But...
No, I'm sure people don't genuinely... Well, some idiots will believe it, but...
Well, again, going back to Huddersfield, and I've only seen the tries, It was a comprehensive win for the Dragons, who had been a team who hadn't been particularly impressive the month before. The referee in that game, making his debut in Super League, was Cameron Worsley. And so many people say, we need fresh blood, we need new referees, it's the same ones every week, and what are we going to do about it? So they found somebody who they think has reached the standard, they promote him, he goes to Catalan, which is a really tough place to go anyway. It's 30 odd degrees, which again, it's not easy when it's your first game. And the coach of the team that lost criticises the referee for his first half performance. You go, like, why did I want to be a professional referee? I finally made it, and all I'm getting is abuse.
Kevin says matchday programs have gone as well now. I'm looking in this pile we've got here just to see if they've mentioned the referee, and in the two I've picked up at the top, oh no, here we are, Mr. DTH Davis refereeing Hunslet and Wakefield. So I don't know what.
Where was he from?
I think he's from Wigan, but he doesn't say in there. Is he from Manchester? Someone will know. On this point, Gav says based on Michael Lewis versus Wakefield, it should have been a penalty to Cass and a yellow card. But one decision.
You're focusing on one incident and not the other 79 minutes and the things that a team have under their control. And that's why I don't want to criticise a referee. If you don't think a referee is ever going to make a mistake, then perhaps you've misunderstood the role of a human being in sport. If you want everything analysed forensically and scientifically, and every decision, whether it be a drop ball or a ball into touch or a goal line drop, if you want it analysed to make sure we got it right, you'll then be complaining that games are taking 5 hours. You have to accept that there is always going to be an element of human error. Teams talk about overcoming adversity, whether that's a player that goes off injured, whether that's failing an HIA, whether it's I don't know, a misread in defence that may or may not have been obstruction. That we always have to overcome. If somebody gets injured in the warm-up, we have to rearrange our team. One of the things you might have to overcome in terms of adversity is a decision that doesn't go against you. That does go against you, that doesn't go for you. And you've got to find a way of being better than that decision. The game wasn't over when that decision was made. It was still in your hands.
As great as Glenn McGrath tripping over the ball in 2005 was to cost Australia the Ashes, it does mean that Michael Vaughan's now a beloved personality. So, these are the decisions and things that happen that change things. Gav says, I agree that respect is important, but when you have Wakefield and Fev fans coming out and saying, Cass, we're screwed over, that's really saying something. It's because we hate Wigan more. But on that point, Ancient and Loyal, who is a Wigan fan, because it says it on the badge, still says it on the badge.
I don't know. Actually. Yes, I think it does.
Have a look at Wigan referee penalty counts when officiating Wigan compared to opposition teams. I'd say Wigan are hard done by. Wigan hard done by.
I just think we've got to get away from talking about the match officials.
All the time.
Please look at your own team's performance over the full 80 minutes and ask yourselves what they could have done better to get the result. What half chance did they miss that could have taken the game away from the opposition? At what point did they squander the ball coming out of their own 20-metre line that drained energy for their later defensive performance? It can't be down to blaming an official. And if you genuinely think that a particular official is biased against your team, has an agenda, I reckon sport's probably not for you.
My grandma, who knew far more about rugby league than I ever will, she always used to say when we were watching Grandstand in the early 90s, the Challenge Cup's on, or whatever, Regal Trophy, and Wigan were playing, because Wigan were always on the telly. She would always say if they were losing at half-time that perhaps there'd be some shenanigans in the referee's room at half-time. I don't know, but...
it's the worst form of conspiracy theory.
She was there in 68, though, so...
But again, the thing about 68, which is this classic example of this, and it's
published a book about it.
It's an argument that we've had time immemorial. If Don Fox had kicked the goal, whether there is or isn't an obstruction try becomes completely irrelevant because Wakefield have won. The referee does not take that kick. Don Fox was haunted for the rest of his life by what he did, not what the referee did.
Does any other club have something hanging over them? Apart from
But
Warrington.
But again, it wasn't the referee.
No. It was because of the pitch.
But Wakefield overcame the adversity of having a horrendous try awarded against them by scoring from the kick-off and had the chance to win it. If Castleford could go back to 2 or 3 incidents in that Wigan game that they could change of their own volition, they would have won that game.
I'd go back and change something about 2017, but they can't do that either. Kevin says, respect for everything has gone, not just rugby.
It's true.
It's true.
But we need to pull back.
Yeah.
It's such an easy target.
Phil says, Cameron had a really good game. Didn't let Sam Tompkins referee the match.
But if he had a really good game, and I'm assuming that that's from a neutral's perspective, then why did the coach who lost feel the need to mention, among the fact that he said, there are a lot of deficiencies in his own team, that the referee was even a factor? We have to be stronger. Our coaches have to be stronger to not go to the instant we've been hard done to card.
Kevin says, obviously the on-field referees will make mistakes, but it's the video referees I'm angry about. They shouldn't be making mistakes, which they have done a few times this season. That's you can't.
No, and the thing about that is then you drop whoever has made that mistake from being a video referee next week, or you announce they're undergoing further training. There isn't an excuse for that.
Paul says, get perfect players and then start complaining about refs. They may not be perfect, of course. Spectators never get anything wrong. No, everyone's offside at Leeds, apparently, and forward passes. Not going the other way, though. Robert says, Danny Maguire was completely right. What's wrong with the truth? If video can't get it right, pack him in. Worst set of refs since I started to watch rugby league in 2005.
It's not the truth. The truth is he had something to complain about one decision. But you're deflecting from what you have control over if you then start saying all of the match officials are the worst we've ever had. The fact is, you're still going to get one of those match officials this week. It's probably a little bit counterproductive to even be saying that. But it makes you look weak.
Danny says something here about Danny Maguire, saying that perhaps when he was at Leeds, he might have been able to influence referees on the field. And at Leeds he was
he liked to talk to referees, but I don't think he ever influenced them.
But at Leeds he was part of a very good team,
which had about 5 captains
and won lots of stuff. And the insinuation is that the top teams get decisions. That's what Luke Robinson said about the Captain's Challenge the other week. And that's why. So is it him having to adapt to the fact that, not that the referees are biased because they're not, or the referees aren't good enough because they're not, but he is now part of a team which is not as good as the Leeds teams he was part of.
I would imagine he's early in his head coaching career. He's trying to drill into his guys what he would like to see from them consistently on a weekly basis, and it's not happening. But I would have taken immense pride in the way that Castleford played for the majority of that game. I think if you look at his expression a couple of times through the game, when Castleford did things that he felt might have cost them, knocking on it, coming out of their own area, not securing the ball at the play the ball, that's something to focus on more than a referee they are genuinely trying their best to do the right thing. And if you don't like this current batch of referees, and if they are the worst since 2005, and you may be right, although quantifying that, I've no idea how you're making that decision, what would you like to do? If you take all of the 6 match officials that we were planning on using this weekend out, who are you going to bring in?
Do you remember what everyone thought about Ashley Klein when he was here?
Best referee in the world, apparently.
Depends on what channel you're watching.
I just think we are at a point in society where, quite rightly, respect has gone for everything. But if you make that the focus of your post-match, you're ignoring all of the things that you have under your control. And you're also not focusing on the things that your team are doing well to build them up for next week, which is part of a coach's job.
Referees in the 60s were rubbish. I've seen that clip from This Sport in Life where the hooker punches someone and he gets sent off. The bloke who punches, it's nonsense. and Richard Harris gets away with
I
it.
just don't remember it being as vitriolic as it is now, which is partly to do with the advent of social media, partly to do with every minute of every game being super scrutinised. The fact that in football we've moved to VAR to forensically take out any possible error, and we're still not happy with that. We're all going to talk about games go on too long. Well, that's because we've introduced a captain challenge that, let's be honest, the clubs aren't very good at yet.
Well, that bit keeps being ignored, doesn't it? Yeah, the players are no good at it. Yeah.
And they'll get better because they'll judge when to use it, when not to use it, what to use it for. The captain will have to take a decision that just because somebody has lost the ball, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to waste something that could be quite useful to them later in the game. So it's 10 minutes in and I may or may not have dropped that ball, challenge it, and you go, oh, we've lost the challenge, but there's a try that we need to look at 2 minutes from time that might go some way to determining the result, but we've lost our captain's challenge. We're just not very good at it at the moment, and it's taking too long because again referees are not used to adjudicating on captain's challenge. When a ball comes out and 5 people are around, it's not easy. The bloke stood next to it can't see what happened. It's possible that the bloke viewing it from 57 angles taking 15 minutes can't see what happened either. It's something in the game that we shouldn't necessarily get rid of. We just need to get better at it.
Bevan French is injured now.
For 8 weeks.
8 weeks. How long's Christian Wade's contract?
I don't know.
Is it until the end of our season?
It's the end of this season, yeah. I think he's given up rugby union. So I think he's committed to a deal at Wigan.
Gav says you're trying your best to get onto the RFL board. Well, you need to try harder than this.
I think it's pretty obvious that I will never be a candidate for the RFL board.
Also in the Super League this week, it was Hull Kingston Rovers 34, Wakefield 10. Apparently Wakefield done over by the referee in this one. Losing by 24 points. I've not seen it because that was at Headingley, where Leeds beat Lee 48-30 in a ridiculous
Can I
game.
read you a comment from a referee that
that we know,
who may or may not have adjudicated the said game Hull KR
and Wakefield
for training purposes? He may not want me to, but I'm going to anyway.
Michael Lewis here, look.
Because he's stuck on a train.
Michael Lewis.
He said, "Sending apologies again. I've been in London last night and on the way back now. I reviewed Hull KR v Wakefield. A fairly dominant performance by KR. One of those games where too many players surrender into collision and then want to quick play the ball, but push forward and trap defenders and generally make it a less enjoyable game." Now, I'm not prepared to say whether that's right or wrong because he's a reviewer for the very reason that he understands a lot more than we do what goes into analysing.
Players and coaches don't know the laws of the game, do they? They don't know.
And I think it's safe to say that the person who sent that doesn't have an allegiance towards Hull KR or Wakefield. That's a neutral observation.
He hates Wakefield.
Does he?
Yeah.
That he has come up
We're
with.
convinced.
Again, if Darryl has said that the referee has had something to do with it, maybe Hull KR are quite good at it.
I think we, to sum up people that are talking on the YouTube chat, we agree on the video referees shouldn't make mistakes because they should.
Everybody, no.
That's different.
But we also want them to make decisions quickly.
Yes.
Because we don't want games to finish at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I would say at this point...
And the RFL have admitted that there was an error. But it did not cost Castleford the game. The penalty may have led to a try, but it wasn't when it was given in a try-scoring position.
I would say at this point that clubs should not be stupid enough, can I use the word stupid? Yeah, I can on this occasion, to try and get videos of incidents out via the media when it's obvious that they're putting the videos out themselves. Because if you put out a clip and there's no Sky graphics on it and there's no Sky commentary on it and you can just hear the referees and whoever in the background, you know that video has come from a club because it hasn't come from Sky or someone filming their telly, which you're not allowed to do. So just be careful, clubs. Don't be stupid. That's what I'd say on that. Back in the day, I remember Eric Clay sending a letter to the RFL saying that Billy Thompson had sent off the wrong player. Eric was a spectator at the game, and no surprise, it was Sid Hines sent off. Now you can just do it to the League Express letters page. Put a pin to it.
It's always gone on. It's more high profile these days because you don't miss anything.
No.
Get off the bandwagon of criticising match officials if you want to look beyond the simplest of reasons why you think your team may have lost.
Danny's asked about the Ashes referees. We
haven't heard yet.
We can't wait. Can't wait.
I think the Aussies will bring at least one person with them.
There'll be an Australian for the first, and Chris Kendall for the second, and then the Aussie for the third.
Ashley Klein for the first, because he used to live in London.
Yeah.
Knows his way around.
Yeah. No truth that they're moving that game to Odsal, by the way, as the Wembley of the North. That's not true. That was just started by people on the internet. So Hull KR beat Wakefield 34-10. Hull KR still top of the league. What
6 points.
Oh,
no, 4 points clear.
It's like they've almost got the league leaders shield.
But they deserve it. They've had their best ever start to a season in their history, in 143 years. That doesn't tell you how well they're playing at the moment. It's nothing to do with the referee denying Wakefield the opportunity of beating them. Having said that, do I think they'll go through the remainder of the season unbeaten? No, I don't.
Because every time that happens, we always say no.
And it's down to, again, can they keep this momentum going for another 11 weeks? It's a long time.
Has the Lee owner been... They are filming investigating that, aren't they? Because Ancient and Loyal have asked about that. I'm sure they're investigating.
Yeah, but they couldn't do it while he was doing a charity bike ride.
Well, you were at the game yesterday, Ancient and Loyal. What did you make of...
I'm disappointed with our defence to concede so many points. But they both said, unprompted and independently of each other, that's the kind of game fans will want to see. I thought it was a fantastic game, a brilliant summer spectacle, so much skill on display from both teams. It's clearly easy to look at Callum Watkins try and say that not only did he fool Gareth O'Brien with his dummy, but an entire stand went the wrong way. But some of the kick from Ben McNamara inside for Hanley's last try, which wasn't going to affect the result, the catch and pass from Hanley when he gets it away to O'Brien, the Keenan brand ability to score in the corner, it just had everything. It was just such an enjoyable game to watch from a rugby league perspective. You were there as a neutral.
I'm glad I didn't ask Brad Arthur afterwards. Callum Watkins, should he play for England? Because he's not in the squad, and I'd have looked foolish for doing so. But it was an entertaining evening of rugby, and there's not much you can ask more than that. As both coaches said after the game, not for them. They that's not what they 0-0. We know this. We know they like defence. Coaches boring. Fans, one for the fans. 78 points, as you say.
It was
great tries.
Perfect
the Watkins
conditions.
try was great entertainment.
Absolutely perfect conditions for open and running rugby, and both teams, who were going to finish in the top six, deserve enormous credit for the way they played. Wakefield are a joy to watch at the moment. There are some teams that are just epitomising everything that is good about the handling aspect of rugby, and so much to admire and enjoy in that game. Jake Connor, what was it, on the third tackle early in the game, seeing that he could put the most precise of kicks in, that's undefendable.
Trinidad and Tobago's Jake Connor.
Well, he certainly
Exiles Jake Connor.
more likely to play for them than England.
The best try though was Michael Ledge's.
Because he hadn't scored for 2 years. And he had no idea what to do after
right place
scored.
at the right time. Perfect.
He turned around and went, I don't know how I celebrate this.
Was it the best try of a prop this weekend? It's either him or Vicky Whitfield. They haven't decided yet.
It's Vicky Whitfield.
But, you know, they're both good.
So much to admire in that game.
Yeah. Really enjoyable game for a neutral to sit there and
you would hope that...
Because you've got to sit there and write all the penalties down. You've got to write everything down because you're writing a match report.
The referee made a huge mistake in the 35th minute. It made no difference to the result.
So much happened that you'd wrote too many words.
The other thing I did write, and I don't know if it made the final cut in League Express today because I hadn't had a chance to go out and get it, was I actually praised Liam Moore at the end of the match report. The final penalty count was 3-2 to Lee. But again, the players have got to be the instigators of the speed and tempo that the game is played at, and not particularly necessarily want to slow it down to the point where it becomes a slugfest. But the referee also has a part to play in that, in probably not penalising every single thing that he could, because he realises the players are trying their best and there's a spectacle here. And I just thought he allowed that game to flow. And with two teams that attacked in the manner and the quality with which they did, we got a great spectacle. It was Sky's main game. Don't think there's a lot of other sport on Friday night.
The Club World Cup is still going, but I don't know if anyone's paying attention to it. But no.
You got the opportunity to clip 14 tries, most of which were high quality.
It took the sport far too long last week to clip the camera getting broken in Wakefield versus Wigan, because that's the kind of thing that people like on the internet, and it took us about 3 days to do it. That's ridiculous.
So I'm nothing but admiration for the way both of those teams wanted to play that game on Friday night.
Should say the other point about clubs putting out videos and leaking them to people. It's very disingenuous when you're saying, well, these players have got a grade E charge for touching someone who's injured, when we know this is a thing and has been for years. And I know you're trying to whip up controversy because you go, well, it's not as bad as punching someone in the head or saying swear words and stuff. So don't do it. Oh, and by the way,
journalists are judged these days, sadly, not necessarily by what they write, but by the reaction to what they write. So it's the way of the world.
Let's talk about terrible bits of business before I forget. How did the Zane Musgrove story go completely under the radar? I only noticed by going on the RFL website I don't even know why I was gone there. And it was there. 8-game ban for using discriminatory language. And no one seems to have talked about it, which is very odd, because it's the kind of thing we usually go, well, that's not a good thing, is it? What a terrible signing from Oldham. What a terrible signing by Warrington in the first place. I mean, there's not much we can say about it, but it's just...
yeah, I mean, I haven't read the details of the case, but if Oldham knew all of that before they decided to sign him, it seems a bit naive.
Toby asks, what rule changes would you want for next season? No more rule changes, because I can't
There's only one rule change I want, which is the same rule change that I've wanted ever since I first started watching the game. And that is, if you charge down a kick, the tackle count doesn't go back to 0. I think it's an absolute skill to put pressure on a kicker, to charge the ball down, and if in the attempt of charging it down, it goes forward, you should be rewarded for your skill if you regather the ball. Or the team that has had their kick charged down, if that's on the last tackle, they're still on the last tackle. That's the only rule I'd change, but that's got nothing to do with...
Oh, you've had that stored for
years.
I can't think of anything.
It really aggravates me.
Other than something daft they'd come up with. So
I'd also slightly change the rule about picking up players and throwing them into touch, which we said the other week. I think it's starting to look a bit like a rugby union maul. Clearly it's a skill, but I think when players of the team who is having the player taken out of play come into the tackle, that's when you should shout held. But that's only because I just think it doesn't look very nice.
So as Thomas has pointed out, that's now 3 people attached to Warrington in the past few years who've said things either to players or on TV that they shouldn't have said. Do we need to educate people coming from Australia on words that you may use there that we don't use here? I don't know.
I think clubs need to do their due diligence about the characters that they're signing. None of this would have come as a surprise.
Because I remember being at school in the 80s, and you use words, and then someone says, well, you shouldn't use this word because of this, and this, and then you go, I won't use that word anymore. So, Kevin's picked out the rule change. Video referee just says, video referee, what do you think of this? Not is a try or not.
We used to have that. We used
the
to
retrograde stepped into all that. It's like doing some dance. I don't know what's going on. Get rid of that. And loop fixtures, but that's not really...
The other thing about Liam Moore, going back to Friday night, there were 14 tries. If he'd have wanted, he could have gone to the screen on 13 of them, but he didn't. He backed his judgment, and he got virtually all of them right, including the one where he did go to the video ref and Alfie Edgell had knocked on, where a lot of people over our side of the ground assumed that he hadn't. The fact that for most of those tries, he went with a live call, it can be done.
It can be done. Robert says, my rule change is the 6 again. Crazy rule. People watching have not got a clue about it. Especially when they do it in the women's game and they don't have the hooter. So you just
There's an
just guess.
inconsistency with that because it's an interpretation. It's not a hard and fast rule. But again, it came from Australia, didn't it?
Captain's challenge. They've got a certain amount of time, haven't they?
Yeah.
Or am I getting confused with cricket? Because
They've got
Danny's
10
asked.
seconds.
10 seconds. It's like the cricket then, the DRS timer. Kev's mentioned, when do Saints play Salford again? Well, the good news is Saints play Leeds again, so that's this week.
Leeds play Salford again, so that'll be the third time.
Because as I say, it's an exceptional circumstance, but it does, points difference could become crucial at some point. But
If you've got loot fixtures, it doesn't become crucial because it's going to happen with loot fixtures.
So I do like it how people on the chat now just decide the agenda for the programme.
I'm
asking about rule changes.
I'm cool with that.
We've not got through much of the rugby. We've talked about Castle and Wigan, haven't we? We don't need to talk about that again.
I don't think so.
And Catalans Huddersfield.
I don't expect everybody to agree with us either.
There's not much we can say about Catalans Huddersfield because I was at work,
I
also had Warrington and Hull on.
I watched again the highlights of it because I was watching Warrington and Hull.
So that Castleford Huddersfield game this Thursday. Oh, I'm glad I'm not working. I can pay full attention to that. I could go. I could. No, I'm not going to go. So I've got the women's nines on Saturday. If you're going to that, come and say hello. So Catalans won, having had a spell of meh. Joel Tompkins has now won a game, so that's good for him for his percentages.
A lot of young French players in the team.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Catalans
Which
need someone to buy
maybe of
in.
necessity because of injury, but certainly at least three of them.
Their identity needs to be France, I guess is wrong. Catalan. They need to be Catalan in all areas of the club.
And if Cesar Rouget's mum is listening, hello. Because we got feedback about saying he was great last week.
Oh, did we?
Yes, from the south of France.
Was he on the front of the magazine last month?
I can't.
I think it was mentioned on there. Only because Ancient and Loyal says, last one, how were the sales of 4020 with Michael Lewis on the cover this month?
We won't know until the next issue comes out and the sales returns come in. You can buy it at Hull KR.
There you go.
So if you go into a game with your favourites at the Sewell Craven Park Stadium, you will find in the club shop is this particular issue as a souvenir of winning the cup.
Frame it, stick it on your
So
wall.
thank you Hull KR for taking copies.
We need to get some big cardboard heads of ourselves so people can hold them up behind us in the south stand.
I might be there on Sunday.
Yeah. So that's what we need to do, like those big cardboard heads of Mikey Lewis and stuff. I'm assuming people get it from the same place we got the pylon's flag. I should take that on Saturday, but I've got nowhere to put it. And I might get banned for making a political statement at West Hull. West Park.
What are you expecting out of the women's night? Bearing in mind there's a lot of teams. We think the top teams are going to play their junior players.
Yeah.
It's all done in one day, which means it's going to be a very long day. What are you expecting? Bearing in mind as well that nines now is a format we tend not to do anymore.
I was thinking about this earlier, and because the heyday of sevens would have been done by, well, it ventured into the 90s with Wigan, didn't it? But Leeds had stopped theirs pretty much, the late 70s? Yeah. And I never went to a Wigan one. And I've not been to the nines even when that came back. I think Wakefield won it one year with people who never played for the first team in the squad. I did play sevens at school briefly, which tells you how bad we were for numbers if I was playing. But I've never been to a sevens or a nines tournament, so I don't know what to expect other than probably chaos. I don't know who I'm going to get to speak to or whatever, but I'm not doing anything else that day, so I may as well go and see what happens.
Yeah.
And
it'd be a festival of rugby league.
And there's 3 finals, so there's 3 winners, and there's a shield and a plate and a egg cup and whatever. So it will be interesting to see what happens, but I've no idea what to expect. I'm hoping, as I said earlier, glitter and hair things, because that's what girls like.
And ice cream, if it's going to be like this.
Girls like hair and glitter things, and that's how we tend to promote the women's grand final. Come to a women's grand final, you can have your hair braided, that kind of thing. Which I'm not necessarily sure is the right thing to do. But I'm a 44-year-old man speaking. I don't know what girls want in rugby league. Don't ask me. But I will go get my hair done if I've got nothing else better to do. Is the shot clock still a thing anymore, says Toby? It is, but no one ever gets penalised for it. Huddersfield were looking to get nil, says Phil. Is Joel T just keeping the chair warm for Sam T. I mean, you would think so, wouldn't you? But we think... Well, Sean Wayne's supposed to be the next coach of Callans, but no one... That's not happening.
There was a school of thought it could be Trent Robinson. There's a school of thought that says Sean Wayne is earmarked, obviously with Sam and maybe Joel as his assistant coaches. I'm not sure.
We don't know. But well done, Catalans on winning, and they get to play Wakefield on Saturday. Warrington 24, Hull 10. Hull are completely unpredictable now. They have reverted to where they were 3 months ago. Cartwright was the coach of the year, and now they're slipping back to where they were, and everyone's And Warrington, having been awful, won a game. We've got to praise Warrington now. It's not what we're supposed to do on this programme, but Warrington won. Well done to them.
For the neutral, it wasn't a great game. You could tell there was nervousness around both teams. Warrington off to a great start, 12-0 ahead, crowd behind them, everything's fine. Sam's back. Half time, 12-10. The difference is a missed conversion, and everybody in the crowd is muted. Warrington again, great start to the second half, couple of tries. Hull relatively uncharacteristic compared to how they have been, particularly in terms of solidity of their defence close to their own line. Matt Duffy slipped through, scored a try, back-to-back tries on the back of that. It never really, as a game, got out of second gear, but as George Williams said afterwards, they just had to win. And they did enough to win. The Warrington fans seemed quite happy. They've got a lot of games against teams that are below them in the league to come. Maybe had they lost, their season was over. Now it looks like, if you're being brutally honest with the way teams are playing at the moment, we possibly have 5 of the top 6. So Hull, Warrington, Wakefield. And Catalan, if they beat Wakefield, are 4 teams vying for 1 playoff spot.
Are women allowed to have long nails when playing? Because they'd be dangerous, says Kevin. We're not allowed to pull hair. We know that. That's a penalty. He does say, can Wire win 2 or 3 on the bounce?
They have to.
Well, you should know, Kevin. You're the fan, Kevin. Tell us about Warrington.
They've got 11 games left, and if they want to put together a run of form that, if they did make the playoffs, is going to trouble the teams that they're going to play, they probably need to win 7, maybe. Kevin would know better than I am whether he's confident if they can do that.
If they do it and get to Old Trafford, win the title. Sir Sam Burgess. You heard it here first.
I haven't seen enough yet to say they're capable of doing that.
What a win for Widnes. 24-4 over Toulouse on Saturday night. Again, they were selling their game for a tenner, so hopefully people streamed that and enjoyed it. But that's fantastic. A big result for them. Big result.
Arguably, along with Barrow, probably the performance of the weekend. There
was no League One this week for reasons. But on Sunday in the Super League, we don't know.
There's only 10 teams.
Ask the strategic review people. We could have had a 9s tournament just for the fun of it. On Sunday in Super League, St Helens beat brave little Salford 58-0. We've got to stop this language. They're professional players. They're not brave. They're not whatever. Oh, it's a plucky performance. No, because it takes all the credit away from St Helens, who were professional. The word Paul Wellens used. They probably could have scored more points. They didn't, so they won't be happy about that. 58-0. Owen Dagnall's try. Wonderful. Speed of thought to kick the ball.
He's some talent.
Rubbish pass. Kicks it. Regathers, scores a try. Perfect. Absolutely wonderful try.
He is someone to watch out for. Been really impressed with him over the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure what more Saints could have done. They were strong.
They just had to win, didn't they?
And again, they've won at home. Paul Rowley was very honest. Said, all the time that everything that's been going on, he's wanted to, defend the team and couldn't really have expected any more out of them. That was an uncharacteristic Salford performance, arguably with a stronger team. I don't know what to say about Salford, but I think you're right. That what they're going through as players and staff, we cannot have enough sympathy for. But the performances over 80 minutes should be judged on what they are and not necessarily the glasses that we wear to say we've got every sympathy for you, and they didn't play well on Sunday afternoon.
And at the end of the day,
they weren't plucky on Sunday afternoon.
It is the club's own fault they are in the position they are in, which seems to be a factor people are forgetting.
Well, it's either that or blame the referee.
Who was the referee? It's successive referees. It's their fault they signed players to contracts they couldn't. How I don't understand what's happening here. They've got a bridging loan to pay the players again. Where are they going to get the money to pay this loan back? No one is going to buy Salford in this state.
It doesn't solve the problem. At some point, they need to decide, the owners, whoever they are, need to decide whether it's better to go into administration and start again, or try and find investors, which they found almost impossible to do in the entire Paul King era, which is why it was down to him.
Well, he's a hero. I'm not saying this is the end of professional rugby league in Salford, but it's the end of this limited company called Salford whatever, because there is no reason if I wanted to run a professional rugby league team in Salford, there's no way that I'm going to put in money to clear the debts of this failing company.
No, you would.
When I can set up another one.
There's only
and probably start in League One.
One possibility that you would, and that would be if you got the land deal you were looking for, which is worth, let's say, £100 million, and you needed to spend £5 to keep the club going in the land and the ground that you've just bought. That would make sense, but at the moment it doesn't.
It's not on our YouTube because it's on another YouTube, but go and search for the interview I did with Michael Carter after the £1 million game in which they beat Bradford, and where Wakefield Trinity would have been had they lost that game. And I don't know. It's hard work, says Phil. Being a Salford and West Tigers fan, I must have done something awful in a previous life.
Yeah, I'm afraid you must. I have a feeling West Tigers might be changing their coach at the end of the season.
Is Benji Marshall going to coach Hunslet?
It's just not working for him. I think it's interesting for people that like reading between the lines that one of Brad Arthur's sons has been released from Manly to go to Newcastle to join his other son.
I was joining the dots on that one because I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish Adam O'Brien not to be at Newcastle, but you've certainly got ready-made replacement there if two of your players happen to be the sons of a bloke who might be available.
Danny says, where is Marwan Kukash these days? Thomas says, he's setting up Liverpool or Cumbria, isn't he?
I think he did go bankrupt. I think he did go through the courts and was declared bankrupt.
We should say, because it's his birthday tomorrow, happy birthday, the legend.
60.
Still not knighted. Whatever, surely he should have been first.
And the great thing is, he's having a surprise 60th party.
Are you going?
Well, he's told everybody. So I texted him back, where's the surprise in that?
Vision and awareness. He knows what he knew. He knew.
So if you're living anywhere near the Middleton area of Leeds, I think
avoid the area tomorrow.
Not going to say when it is.
When it is. When not tomorrow. Sorry.
Don't be surprised if there's a smell of a barbecue and loud music and people imbibing.
He's not going to going to Morrison's in his slippers.
I think he will. I'll just go get some more beer in my pyjamas.
Will be a charity to leave behind the history of Salford due to modern day business interests. The club of Tom Kent, Harry Eagles and Gus Risman deserve better, to be honest, is ancient and loyal. Well, the good news is, as we know, with York and with Bradford, you just pretend that they're the same club anyway, so it doesn't matter. Barrow 24, Bradford 22. Barrow for Super League, tweeting that yesterday. So,
which is an astonishing result as well when you think that Barrow... Bradford knew that Toulouse had lost the night before, and this was their opportunity to gain the 2 points at the top of the league, and Barrow won it in the last minute. Joe Bullock, on loan from...
somewhere? I was going to say Wigan, but he's not Wigan.
No. It's not from Salford, is it?
It can't be from... They've used 54 players, despite the fact they've got 55 shirts.
I can't remember where he went. Or did he go to Oldham? Anyway.
Everyone's at Oldham, aren't they? Who's the player at Salford who they haven't used and who's got a squad number? Because if they've used 54 players and your lad from under is playing 55. Yeah. Batley 24, Sheffield 14. This sounds like a game of two halves.
Which again, Batley won late on.
John Keir Revolution.
Yeah, amazing.
John Keir's back.
70 years old.
I thought he had
He's
retired,
back.
hadn't he?
Yeah,
He's the Neil
yeah.
Warnock of rugby
Yeah,
league.
yeah.
Oh, it's one more job, Sam.
Yeah, yeah.
He's back.
I think he's only come back to the end of the season, but obviously
But
he's he mentored Craig Lingard, who went there with Sheffield on Sunday and lost.
so when he's still there in charge midway through next season, we'll know. Halifax 20, Oldham 23. So if Hull FC have reverted to mean, have Halifax, because they had that storming start to the season. They've dropped back a bit. Oldham, who needed to bounce back after defeat the other week, 23-20 win.
Joe Bullock has joined Barrow Raiders on loan as part of our dual reg agreement with Salford.
Well, that's bloody stupid, isn't it? I won't ask who pays his wages because that's naughty. So well done to Oldham bouncing back. Hunslet 6, London 72. London Hounds, as you read in 4020 magazine. Surprisingly, last week everyone getting very excited about this exclusive news, but 4020's been out 2 weeks. I know it's been out 2 weeks because I keep forgetting it. And it was but I've got it now, so it's okay. I haven't started my column yet. Need to write something. But that's the end of Dean Muir. But as we were saying earlier about Hunslet,
he did a great job getting them up unexpectedly from League One last year. It's almost given a little bit of a poison chalice, but the last 2 home games have been really heavy defeats. And when you're putting in performances like that in front of your home spectators and they're increasingly disgruntled, the board at Hunslet possibly felt they had to go in a different direction.
People make up their own programme in the chat. It's brilliant. People decided who's going to Scoey's birthday and who isn't going.
Right.
I mean, thankfully no one said Doug Lawton, but obviously you can't go. But maybe his ghost will be there to haunt him.
Nor Morris Lindsay.
Who
denied him his record cap.
Get that golden cap. York 30, Featherstone 8. Bit of a different game to the game at Wembley. But,
but York second with that result.
Mark Applegarth revolution continues.
Well, they're doing something right.
This week, on Thursday, Castleford Huddersfield, the game that they're all looking forward to. Sky might come on at 5 to just go.
Who's they?
Sky?
Oh.
There's no Premier League darts on, so might start at 5 to just say, sod it, we'll just turn up.
Something else unrelated, about Castleford.
Right.
I know it's Saturday night. Not a normal time that we have rugby league games.
Yep.
Difficult for some people, particularly when the weather's like this, might have been out all day to get to the rugby.
To Scarborough.
Poor attendance.
Against the world champions.
That would be a concern.
It would be for Thursday, wouldn't it, as well? It's not really a game you can sell to the public and go, come and look at these two great rugby
I
league
don't
teams.
know, but I would like to know if Castleford fans are watching, why are they not going in their usual numbers? Is it disenchantment with where they've been the last couple of years, or is it something more than that? I don't know.
Andrew says, John Keir back to save the doggies and Hunslet getting rid of their coach. They're getting scared of the mighty Rams. They're back in action this week, I assume. We'll come to that in a minute. Friday, Lee Wigan, Battle of the Borough, part 700.
Yeah.
Salford Warrington.
Won't be 1-0.
Salford Warrington. Warrington fan. Kevin pointing out, if we don't win this one. And Bradford versus Hunslet. Also on Friday. Why are Bradford playing these Friday
They're doing
games?
Friday night lights or something, aren't they? Are they trying to recreate Bullmania?
Yeah, but if you play on Sunday, you'd have the lights and save money.
I think in the middle of summer you'd have the lights on.
That's true. Saturday, Hull versus St Helens, Wakefield Catalans, at different times, not at the same time. How good's that?
Hull St Helens will be interesting because Hull still haven't won at home. They have to break, but I've been quite impressed with Saints the last couple of weeks.
London Halifax and Toulouse Doncaster, both at 5 o'clock. Don't know why London kick off at 5, but they do.
It's in Ebbsfleet as well, isn't it?
Oh, right. The home of Ebbsfleet. Wheelchair Super League on Saturday. Edinburgh Wigan.
Why did we have a week off?
Need a rest.
It started a week off.
Could have played a nines competition. Oh, they can't play nines. Actually, that's a great idea. Right, instead of, I know they have the fours, let's put more players on the pitch so there's more chaos. Oh, we've not mentioned it. The PDRL game being abandoned.
Yeah, did you find out why?
I didn't, because I didn't go. I was going to go to Wakefield yesterday. I didn't go.
But why people think there wouldn't be competitive
just
element.
because someone's got an arm missing or a leg
you
or
can
whatever,
still, you can still lay into someone with one arm.
It was Wakefield Casford, wasn't it, as well? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Obviously some feeling.
it's a bit patronising to the people with one arms. People on social media.
Give us more details to why it was. No doubt there'll be a
big ban. Look, it's got to get bans, penalty points and stuff.
But does it count as a community game or?
We'll find out next week. Then I don't know. But you never got this with Adam Hills, did you? Now they've got all the TV celebrities away. It's just gone to pot.
Beating lumps out of each other.
Violence. That's people would watch that. People would watch that. Edinburgh versus Wigan, Sheffield versus London, and Halifax versus Hull. That's this week's games in the Wheelchair Super League. No Leeds game this week. They've got a week. They've got another week off. But was it England training camp last week? Or?
Maybe that's why there was a week off.
Yeah, I think that is right actually. Sunday, Hull KR Leeds. Ooh,
Big game. Big game.
Big test for everyone.
Well, if you're looking at it from a Leeds point of view, well, why would you do that? They just need to be competitive. They don't necessarily have to win that game because they play each other again at Headingley, because we have to play everybody 25 times. But Leeds need to give Hull KR something to think about in that game if they do meet in a more pressurised environment later in the season.
Gav says, we only had about 1,000 Wigan fans over, and Council says it's too hot. But he also Gav says, because Dwyer Nichow was there, because it was the 30th anniversary.
And
Tony Kemp, legendary former Wakefield coach.
Who we saw at Headingley on Friday night.
30 years since Castleford won the Regal Trophy, which they had the trophy there, which I'm surprised it's not in a bin somewhere at the RFL, or it's been melted down for metal. But Gav says, I was kind of disappointed to see there was more about Castleford's 30th anniversary at the Leeds game when they interviewed Nichow than there was during the Cass game. Cass wasn't one of their main games, though, was it? So it would have been if you're watching on the iPlayer, it's just bloody adverts during the half-time break. You don't even get Dave Woods telling you stuff.
No.
You just get to see endless promos for the Wimbledon.
How did that start today?
It's the Glastonbury of tennis. I said I wouldn't mention Glastonbury for Andrew, but apologies, Andrew. The Regal Trophy. Is that the one in which, in the build-up, it's the you bottleless get thing? Yeah, I thought it was.
I think so.
It makes sense, wouldn't it?
But either way, whether it is or isn't that game, it's, I think it is.
The trophy did look, from the picture, the photo I saw of the trophy, it did look a bit rusty. So God knows where it's been since. Wigan won it last, didn't they, in '95 before it got binned. So I mean, the surprise there, it's not at Wigan because they've got all the trophies, haven't they?
Oh, maybe they bought it over with them.
Yeah, we still need to liberate the Championship trophy and give it to the winners of the Women's Super League or something, which still needs to be named after the player of the match stuff. Championship: Featherstone Barrow, Oldham Widnes, Sheffield York. League One: Hurricanes Rochdale, Crusaders Workington, Keighley Dewsbury, Whitehaven Swinton. And sadly, no chance for Newcastle to win because their game against Cornwall, because next to it.
Technically, they do win then, don't they?
But they don't get any.
No, because the record gets
expunged. Does anyone know of any other use of the English language of the word expunged or adjudged apart from in sporting contexts? The referee adjudged to have given a knock on. I think that's it. We should try and get the Regal Trophy in as a guest. We had the Yorkshire League Trophy in once. We'll try and get the Regal Trophy. BBC Two Floodlit Trophy joining us next week on the podcast. But I think that's it.
Is that it?
I think that's it, because we've done an hour and a half and we've talked a load of rubbish this week.
We have.
But it's the heat. It's the heat. We've got to remember to close the... Apologies to the podcast listeners, because you'll have heard the traffic, because the window's open. Otherwise, I don't know.
We'll have to get an ice cream.
If I remember correctly, says Gav, it was the first year that Wigan went fully professional and were the only fully pro team in the league. Expected to win everything. Cass was the big upset. Then they beat us in the Challenge Cup semi later in the year. So there you go. That's what they've got. And now we don't have all these trophies.
And I think there's another reunion at Cass next year for winning the Challenge Cup.
In 86?
I have a feeling Jamie Sandy might be coming over for it.
Tony Camp. Maybe he could be the next Hunslet coach.
He put out a plea, didn't he? He said, I want to be a director of rugby somewhere.
I mean, former Wakefield Trinity coach during the John Payman reign of Tepper.
They don't need a director of rugby.
No.
Who does?
Who does? I don't know. Did Lee have one since Chris Chester went?
No.
I think he's got a podcast as well, so not only could he bring you a podcast,
Well, you can record that anyway, can't you?
I mean, Lee Crooks on his 5th testimonial says, testimonials are a very strange thing. They're a very, very... I don't know how retired players get to... Surely you can just make it up anyway. Just say, it's my testimonial. Because what were the RFL going to do? They don't do anything about anything. So you can just
they grant them.
Yeah, but why? But they don't need to, because the player's retired. They can't tell them not to. What jurisdiction have they got? They're going to ban them from Wembley or something. Sneak it.
Some would say.
Yeah. When's Scoey's next one? Look out for some shirts coming soon. I think I've got a pile of his testimonial brochures.
I've got some somewhere.
If people shall I share the picture of? Let me share the picture just for the people watching at home. I will share the picture I put on Twitter yesterday because I found it again.
I think the only thing left to say is and then they used to wee on you. Listen to the beginning. Oh, highlights of Hunslet and London.
There it is. Look at that from the glory days.
I saw somebody put that.
Sid compared us to professional wrestlers from the 1970s.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's amazing how so few of us have aged.
I know. I mean, my hair's grey now. You've still got that jacket, haven't you? And that jumper.
Oh yeah, I'm wearing that jacket today.
Wilton was in bloody New York last week. Scoey's birthday tomorrow. Nigel now runs the sport, allegedly. Plus ça change, whatever the rest of that phrase is. We'll catch you back. I'm going to leave that picture up. So when I turn the computer on next week, that picture will appear. We should frame it and put it up on the wall. Thanks for watching and listening. Apologies for that picture.